Oh man, if I can drop that shit off. $140 for diagnostics. God, man. Might have to drive around fucking unregistered.
Are the gaps between two notes, two given notes. So if we had the note C and we had the note, so even having a basic ability to identify things about music using your ears is incredibly valuable. So I'm going to put that in the S tier. And sort of following on from ear training, let's talk about intervals. So intervals are the gaps between two notes, two given notes. So if we had the note C and we had the note G, the gap between them is a perfect fifth. And the reason that knowing the names and sounds of intervals is valuable is not only will it help you pick them out of songs when you're listening to them, but if you wanted to transpose a song, perhaps the singer says, oh, can we take this song up a major third? If you know what a major third is, if you know what interval that is, then you'll have no problem doing that. And it's that sort of thing where knowing the names of the intervals is a very fundamental aspect of music. So once again, that's going to go up in the A tier. Now, when you talk about music theory, I think a lot of people think about scales. So let's put some scales onto our tier list. And let's start with probably what most people would think of as the most important scale, the major scales. If you know your major scales, if you know how to play all 12 of the major scales on the instrument, it's almost like pre-learning songs, because so many songs are based around the major scale, or largely based around the major scale. How to play probably what most people would think of as the most important scale, the major scales. If you know your major scales, if you know how to play all 12 of the major scales on your instrument.
All 12 of the major scales. It's the same fucking scale, it's just which one you start on. Right?
It's almost like pre-learning song.
I guess on the piano you gotta fucking the black keys and shit.
Because so many songs are based around the major scale, or largely based around the major scale. So if your fingers and your mind are already used to playing those notes in that collection, then it's going to massively reduce the amount of time it takes you to learn new songs. And it's also just going to make you a better improviser as well, because having the major scales at your fingers means that you can instantly start improvising over a song that's in that major scale. So for that reason, I'm actually going to put major scales in the super tier right at the top, because I think they're one of the most important things you can know. And with that in mind, let's talk about another type of scale, the pentatonic scales, and also the blues scale, because the blues scale is like a variation of the pentatonics. The pentatonic scales, the major
pentatonic boy. The pentatonic scale boy. Damn, $140 for diagnostics, yo. Might have to write a song about that. I took my car to get looked at today. It's $140 so I'll have to pay. start doing some ear training, yo. He put that on top number one. Number one, yo. That's one of the number one most important things. Ear training, and I think it is. I think that is right. Another day with a cloudy sky. Another day spent just a wandering around. Another day it's just passing me by. Another day and I'm wasting my time. I made plans after the sunset before I close my eyes. So I wanna do after the morning sunrise. Instead of doing those things, I'm sitting here getting high. Oh, I promised myself I wouldn't do this last night. Just keep hitting that thing, just keep hitting that light. And keep letting these days just keep on passing me by. Just keep on wasting away, even days the sun shining bright. And see things so clearly, I just keep out of my mind. Just so sick of myself, man. I'm just so fucking tired of going to sleep, just so unsatisfied. Waking up in the morning, and waking up in the morning, just so filled with regret, regretting all that time wasted, forgetting all that time spent. And you living this way, you can't keep wasting your life. Each passing day, it's like a piece of me dies. Only this morning, the sun came up, but then the clouds came and covered the sun. Another day with a cloudy sky. Another day just a wandering why. Another day just a passing me by. Another day I'm just wasting my time. Early this morning, thought that this day's the one. Thought today was a new day, thought the old days were done. But I'm sitting here now, and it feels like I'm stuck. Just wasting my time, wondering why about myself. I didn't mean to do this. Delete.
Pentatonic and the minor pentatonic are generally considered the entry-level scale for guitarists, the main scale that guitarists use in most of the stuff they do. And the main reason for that is they are just so versatile. They are slightly simplified versions of the major and minor scale, and I think you can get a lot of distance out of the pentatonic. I think that's been proven by every guitarist ever. So the main reason for that is they are just so scale for guitarists. Just the main scale that guitarists use in most of the stuff they do. And I'm actually going to put major scales in the super tier right at the top. Talk about another type of scale, the pentatonic scales, and also the blues scale, because the blues scale is like a variation of the pentatonics.
Ow.
The pentatonic scales, the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic, are generally considered the entry-level scale for guitarists, just the main scale that guitarists use in most of the stuff they do. And the main reason for that is they are just so versatile. They are slightly simplified versions of the major and minor scale, and I think you can get a lot of distance out of the pentatonic scales. I think that's been proven by every guitarist ever. So let's put that in the A tier, because I think you can get a lot of mileage out of those. And another common type of scale, which you're going to be thinking of already, is the minor scales. And I say scales because there's three minor scales, really. There's the natural minor scale, the harmonic minor, and the less common melodic minor. And knowing all three...
Damn it, I wasn't paying attention. Like a
they are slightly...
fucking retard. Stupid motherfucker.
Blues scale, because the blues scale is like a variation of the pentatonics. The pentatonic scales, the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic, are generally considered the entry-level scale for guitarists, just the main scale that guitarists use in most of the stuff they do. And the main reason for that is they are just so versatile. They are slightly simplified versions of the major and minor scale, and I think you can get a lot of distance out of the pentatonic scales. I think that's been proven by every guitarist ever. So let's put that in the A tier, because I think you can get a lot of mileage.
The guitar. I watched a video about what to look for when you're buying a guitar. And I fucking wish I saw it before I bought my guitar. One of the things is for it to be balanced, so when you put it up like this, it stays like this and the end doesn't fall over. This isn't mine. This is this other dude's. Weston, the lord of this house until the end of the month. My lord of this house. Yeah, so that it's balanced, so you don't have to hold it up over here. And another trick I saw how, and then yeah, there's a bunch of shit. Cause like yeah, I'll find myself fucking doing that. It's just supposed to be like Another day with a cloudy sky. Another day's been just wondering why. Another day's just passing me by. Another day and I'm just wasting my time. I've made plans after the sun set before I close my eyes. Things that I wanna do after the morning sun. Instead of doing those things, I'm sitting here getting high. I promised myself I wouldn't do this last night. Just keep hitting that vape, just keep hitting that pipe. And keep letting these days just keep passing me by. God, I hate it when that happens, man. See, that's why I fucking need to not have. I need fucking something separate from my phone, because I don't like that shit. I go to like look at my notes or something, and then I see fucking a text or a call or something, fucking completely gets me out of that fucking precious zone. I forgot what I was fucking gonna do. I think I was just looking up the words. Another day, the cloudy sky. Another day's been just a wondering why. Another day, just passing me by. Another day, and I'm just wasting my time. Minutes after the sunset, before I close my eyes. And I wanna do after the morning sunrise. Instead of doing those things, I'm sitting here getting high. I promised myself I wouldn't do this last night. Hitting that thing, I just keep hitting that pipe. Can't keep playing these days, just keep passing me by. Just keep on racing away, even days the sun shining bright. And to see things so clearly, I just keep clouding my mind. I'm so sick of myself, man, I'm just so fucking tired. I'm going to sleep just so unsatisfied. Waking up in the morning just so filled with regret. Getting all that time wasted, forgetting all that time spent. Moving this way, I can't keep wasting my life. Each passing day, it's like a piece of me dies. Early this morning, the sun came up, and then the clouds came and covered the sun. Another day with a cloudy sky. Another day's been just a wandering line. Another day, just a passing me by. Another day, and I'm just wasting my time. Early this morning, but this day's the one. Thought the day was a new day, thought the old days were done. But I'm sitting here now, and it just feels like I'm stuck. Just wasting my time, wondering why I'm not stop. I had all these dreams when I was a kid. I had all these visions of the future ahead. I wanted to do all these things and change the way the world is. So I'm just watching God, watching it all go to shit. Riots and looting, increases in mass shooting. Our nuclear weapons, man, what the fuck are we doing? It's my dreams of what could have been, what could have been. These moments keep passing, no, I wish that they didn't. I wish my wishes could, but my wishes don't make a difference. These moments keep passing. There's no home in these moments. These moments keep passing. These moments keep slipping. I don't know if it matters what I do when I die. It just no matters to me so long as I'm alive. It's too late for the past. The clock is already ticking. I've still got tomorrow, no, I'm not giving in. Tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow is it. Tomorrow I'll do what I should have already did. But right now, I'll just take another hit and I'll sit here some more. It's another day with a brighter sky. Damn, man, I fucking hate pissing, man. I hate pissing. Pause. Bam. Hot damn, dog. Hot damn. I hate pissing. That throws me out of the zone, too. God, man. Get in the zone, stay in the zone. Get in the zone,
Out
stay
of
in the
those. And another common type of scale, which you're going to be thinking of already, is the minor scale. Scale for guitarists,
The zone is focused. Focus on what you're doing. That's the zone.
just the main scale that guitarists use in most of the stuff they do. And the main reason for that is they are just so versatile. They are slightly simplified versions of the major and minor. The pentatonic scales, the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic, are generally considered the entry-level scale for guitarists, just the main scale that guitarists use in most of the stuff they do. And the main reason for that is they are just so versatile. They are slightly simplified versions of the major and minor scale, and I think you can get a lot of distance out of the pentatonic scales. I think that's been proven by every guitarist ever. So let's put that in the A tier, because I think you can get a lot of mileage out of those. And another common type of scale, which you're going to be thinking of already, is the minor scales. And I say scales because there's three minor scales, really. There's the natural minor scale, the harmonic minor, and the less common melodic minor. And knowing all three of those scales, particularly the natural minor, has all the same benefits really as knowing the major scales. It kind of allows you to pre-learn songs. If you're playing a song in A minor and you've already practiced the A minor scale, your fingers are already going to know the sort of movements and places they need to go to. So minor scales, much like the other scales, are really quite important, and I'm going to put them in the A tier. So we've got three types of scales so far. What other types of scale could we have? Well, there's the modes. So that's your Mixolydian scale, your Dorian scale, Phrygian scale. And I think the thing is with modes is you don't really need to know modes to perform songs. Even if a song uses, let's say, the Dorian mode, you can think of it more as being in the minor scale with a raised sixth, with a variation to it. So if you already know your, you perform songs. Even if a song uses, let's say, the Dorian mode, you can think of it more as being in the minor scale with a raised sixth, with a variation to it. So if you already know your major and minor scales, then you can kind of get away without knowing the modes. But the modes really come into their own when you want to improvise and write music with the flavour of those modes. Knowing the modes of the major scale is useful, but it's not going to be as useful as our other scales. So I'm going to put that in the B tier. And when we're talking about modes, we're usually talking about the modes of the major scale, so Phrygian, Dorian, Mixolydian, but modes can actually be of any scale. You could have the modes of the harmonic minor scale or the modes of the melodic minor. And I think that these modes, these sort of extended modes...
See, that's what I need to learn. The harmonic and melodic, man. I'm about to look at that shit after that.
Are nowhere near as important as the major scale modes because they come up less often, and just like the modes of the major scale, they're sort of like variations on the typical major and minor scale. And of course, these modes can be useful for the same reason that the other modes and scales are useful. They allow you to evoke a certain flavour in your writing and your improvising. But these scales come up so much less often. So I'm going to put this in the C tier. Useful to know, but certainly not essential. And as an extension to that, we've got exotic scales. So this is sort of all of the other scales that we've not mentioned. So the whole tone scale, the octatonic scale, the bebop scale. So really any other scale which doesn't fall under the categories we've looked at so far. They're almost like the miscellaneous scales. And the reason they're miscellaneous is because they're less common. They're not going to come up anywhere near as often. So I'm going to place them in the C tier because they're useful for evoking certain flavours, but they're certainly not essential. If you've always been interested in learning to play the piano, then you can get started right now with Skoov. Skoov is an easy-to-use interactive app that can teach you real songs by classical modulation. So that's enough about scales. Let's talk now about more of a skill, and this is transposition. So transposition is when you change the key of a song, and it doesn't mean a key change, as in like when you change key during a song. That's what's called modulation. Transposition is when, before you actually start playing the song, you rewrite the music out in a new key. Quite often, when you're playing a cover, playing the song, you rewrite the music out.
Alright. Let me show you what I'm looking at real quick. Now I'm gonna try and figure out what's being transposed from which key to which key. So, 3 sharps. Fuck, it's gonna take a second, huh? 3 sharps to 4 sharps. Which key has 3 sharps? Well, let's see. I think it's oh, well, you can tell right here. Let's see, G, A, B. So that's C sharp, D. No, C, because the line. Yeah, I'm learning how to read the fucking music. So G, A, B, C, D. Oh, C. So that's C sharp, D, E, F sharp. G sharp. So that would be so it's not G. A whole step, B, damn. Alright, well let me just fucking look this up. A major. See, the circle of fifths helps. Yeah, A major. Oh, I see. So okay, that makes sense. So every fifth adds a sharp. Every fifth adds a sharp. Every fifth forward adds a sharp. Every fourth backwards adds yeah, because C to F That adds a flat. So G has one sharp, D has two sharps. D, E, D, F, C, D, G, D, E, F, G, A. So A has three. Yeah, E, A, B, C, D. E has four. Yep. E to B. Yep, that's 5. Okay. So every fifth has another sharp. So C, G, D, C, G, D, A, E. C, G, D, A, E, B. C, G, D, A, E, B. Guitar is tuned E, A, D, G, B. E, A, D, G, G, A, B. Or E, D, E, A, D, G, B, E. Yeah, B, G, 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 A, G, A, B. Alright. So that's going from A major to, what's a fifth away from A major? A, B, C, D, E. E major. A to E major.
In a new key. Quite often, when you're playing cover, it's valuable to be able to change the key because the likelihood of your singer's range matching the range of the original singer is quite unlikely. So you want to have the option to be able to change the key and see if it sounds better in that key or not. So it's an important skill. It's not essential. So I'm going to put it in the B tier. And sort of following on from that is key signatures. So key signatures is something that really only applies to sheet music. So if you're reading notation, if you're not reading notation, if you're someone who doesn't really read sheet music, knowing key signatures isn't really important at all. But if you are reading sheet music, reading key signatures is very important. You basically can't read sheet music without that. So those two polar priorities makes me think that I should probably put it in the B tier. So this next one's another skill, and it's Roman numerals, Roman numeral analysis. And what that means is knowing in any given key what a chord progression is in relation to that key. So if I said the chord progression C, F, A minor, G, and we're in the key of C, then you could describe that as 1, 4, 6, 5, and you spell that out with Roman numerals. And why Roman numerals? Reading sheet music, reading key signatures. So those two polar priorities makes me think that I should probably put it in the B tier. So this next one's another skill, and it's Roman numerals, Roman numeral analysis.
Yes, Roman numerals.
And what that means is knowing in any given key what a chord progression
He's gonna put that on number
is
1.
in relation to that key. So
Number
if I
1
said
or
the chord
A?
progression C, F, A minor, G, and we're in the key of
He's gonna put this in either the most important or second most important. I think it's S and A.
C, then you could describe that as 1, 4, 6, 5, and you spell that out with Roman numerals. And why Roman numerals are useful is it allows you to think of chord progressions in the abstract, beyond the key they're in. Because a 1, 4, 6, 5 will sound pretty much the same whether it's in C major or E flat major. The important thing isn't the particular chords in the progression, it's their relation to each other. And that's what Roman numerals is useful for. So I'm going to put Roman numerals in the B tier, because I do think, particularly when it comes to using your ears, it's an incredibly valuable skill.
Man, you should
Now,
put that
the next
A.
concept is, once again, highly related to reading sheet music, and less related to performing music by ear. And it's note values. So knowing that this note is a half note, or what we Brits would call a minim. And this concept is generally limited to reading sheet music. If you're reading sheet music, it's the note values that tell you how long you should hold a note for. It's telling you the rhythm. But the other thing, though, to consider is that reading rhythm, reading note values on sheet music is probably less important than being able to read the pitch, being able to read the notes on the stave. And this is because if you're learning a song that you know really well, or even a song that you've just heard a few times, you probably already know how the rhythm goes. And when you read it off sheet music, you're mainly just reading the pitches. The rhythm is coming intuitively to you because you've heard it before. So with that in mind, I think it's a important thing, though, to consider is that, and this concept is generally limited to reading sheet music. If you're reading sheet music, it's the note value. The thing, though, to consider is that reading rhythm, reading note values on sheet music is probably less important than being able to read the pitch, being able to read the notes on the stave. And this is because if you're learning a song that you know really well, or even a song that you've just heard a few times, you probably already know how the rhythm goes. And when you read it off sheet music, you're mainly just reading the pitches. The rhythm is coming intuitively to you because you've heard it before. So with that in mind, I think it's an important concept, but not the most important. So I'm going to put it into the B tier. The most important. So I'm going to put it into the B tier. The next concept is quite similar, actually, where it's quite closely tied to sheet music. It's articulation. So articulation is the particular way that you play a note, whether you play it staccato or whether you play it legato. And there's sort of two instances where articulation is relevant. The first would be if you're in some sort of rehearsal room and someone suggests, oh, can you play that part staccato? And obviously you want to know what staccato means to be able to do that. But the other aspect of articulation is knowing what the symbols look like on the page, knowing that this dot means staccato, or a line like this means legato. So this is something I think has sort of medium importance, because the way you play a note, the articulation, is important, but it's not as important as playing the correct note at the correct time. So I'm going to put this in the C tier. Let's talk a bit more about some rhythm things. Let's talk about time signatures. Now, you don't have to know what the time signature is of a piece of music to play it. A bit like I was saying before, if you know how a song goes because you've heard it before, you can sort of intuitively feel the meter and the pulse. You don't necessarily have to be counting in your head or out loud what the time signature is. That's perhaps only relevant with more advanced time signatures, more unusual signatures like 5/4 or 7/4. That said, it is very useful to know what the meter of a song is. It can give you that confidence to know that you're playing it right. But I think maybe the most valuable thing with time signatures is knowing that they're there as an option. I think most people who write music default to some of the more common signatures, 4/4, 3/4, 6/8. People sort of have a habit of writing in particular signatures. And if you're aware that 5/4 is a thing, if 7/4 is a thing, it might give you the motivation to try writing in that signature, and that could be a great way of stimulating some new ideas. So that all said, I'm going to put it into the C tier. Now, continuing down the rhythm line, let's talk about tuplets. So tuplets are when a certain number of notes are squeezed into the space that a different number of notes would normally fit in. And the most common type by far is the triplet. So the triplet is when 3 notes are squeezed into the space that 2 notes would usually occupy. And as with all of these rhythmic concepts, you can play a tuplet without knowing what it's called, particularly triplets. Triplets come up a lot in popular music. And if you know how the rhythm of the song goes, you don't need to know that it's called a triplet. When it's most important to know what a tuplet is when you're reading them off the page. If you're reading sheet music and you see a tuplet, well, you need to know what that concept is. You need to know what you're actually meant to do with that, because otherwise you're just going to be completely stuck. So it's important if you're reading sheet music, not as important if you know how the song goes. Let's put it mid-table into the C tier. The next concept we're going to talk about is rhythmic solfege, which might sound weird, and it's probably a weird name for something that you actually already do. Rhythmic solfege is when you describe where the beat is in the bar using a particular set of words. So for example, imagine I want to describe to you, without showing you the sheet music, that I want a beat here. This is the third beat of the bar. So I would just say it's on the 3. That's pretty simple. But what if I wanted to describe this beat? It's on the 8th note between 3 and 4. The name for this in rhythmic solfege is the 3-and, because we name 8th notes with an and. And if you don't know what rhythmic solfege is, if you had not learned this before, then it seems like a very confusing and overwhelming concept, but that's precisely why it's valuable to learn, because people do use this all the time to describe where beats fall. It's an incredibly efficient way to describe where a beat falls in the bar without having to write it all down. So if someone says, oh, there's a hit on the 4-and, you want to know what that means.
For what?
It is a valuable skill. That said, it's something that I only think is used in quite professional environments. So I'm going to put it mid-table again. I'm going to put it in the C tier.
Yeah,
So let's start getting into
in
perhaps some slightly more advanced territory. Let's talk about cadences and functional harmony. So cadences are movements between chords that sort of end or complete progressions. The most famous cadence is the perfect cadence, 5-1. And there's a few of these cadences, these movements between chords, and when they're used as a way of moving around a key, then it's described as functional harmony. And this is the concept that is far more relevant in classical music and also jazz music. When it comes to pop and rock, functional harmony really does sort of lose its relevance. So I'm going to put it reasonably low down. I'm going to put it in the D tier. Now, something we sort of skipped over earlier is clefs. So treble clef, bass clef, and also less common clefs like the alto clef. What a clef does is it tells you which note is which on the stave. So knowing clefs is also...
So this is 5 and 1. And then you got 5 and 1. G, A, B, C, D.
essential for reading sheet music, because if you don't know what note is which on the stave, you can't play any of those notes. But if you're not going to be playing sheet music, if you're going to be playing all of your music by ear or using tablature perhaps, you don't need to know what clefs are. You really don't. So it's one of those skills where it depends on what type of music you're going to be playing, what type of environment you're going to be in. So I think it belongs mid-table really. Because it's essential to reading sheet music though, I think it's going to go in the B tier. Something else which is largely to do with reading sheet music is dynamics. So dynamics is the relative volume of a piece of music, whether it's played softly or loudly. And in music, particularly classical music, it's represented by these letters, which stand for Italian words for loud and soft. Forte meaning loud, and piano meaning soft. Dynamics are far more important in the world of classical music, particularly when you're reading sheet music, because the whole idea in classical music is that you perfectly replicate the composer's vision for the music. But the thing is, if you are just trying to do your own rendition of a piece of music, your own vision of it, then you're going to have an idea in your head, a natural idea of where you want it to be louder and softer. So you don't necessarily need that dictated to you on the page. So for that reason, I'm actually going to put it in the D category. Some people might get frustrated by that, but I think it's something that you really only need if you're reading sheet music, and then you only really need it if you're reading classical music, and then you only really need it if you're trying to play that classical music faithfully. So, there. Okay, so we really are now getting into some quite some buts there. Okay, so we really a natural idea of where you want it to be louder and softer. So you don't necessarily need that dictated to you on the page. So for that reason, I'm actually going to put it in the D category. Some people might get frustrated by that, but I think it's something that you really only need if you're reading sheet music, and then you only really need it if you're playing classical music, and then you only really need it if you're trying to play that classical music faithfully. So there's a lot of ifs and buts there. Okay, so we really are now getting into some quite advanced concepts. So the next one is polyrhythms. A polyrhythm is when there are two different consistent pulses happening at the same time. So, for example, one of the most common polyrhythms is 4/3. Now, polyrhythms are one of those things where you could play a polyrhythm without knowing that it's a polyrhythm. You could either play it by ear, or you could even read it and not necessarily know that it's polyrhythm.
I was just thinking about how I felt bad about that time that I was rolling and shit with someone who is a beginner, and I was like, it's easy, it's just a technical getup, it's easy. I thought of that because I was just thinking about how it's easy, how shit's easy. It's just, or how reading the sheet music is easy. And I was thinking about how I could explain it to someone how to read it, and how I would be explaining it. And I was thinking, me telling them, it's easy, it's just, you fucking this and that.
Rhythm. It's ultimately just a tuplet over normal notation. And we've already talked about tuplets, so...
But me saying it's easy, it's just this and that, and them being like, looking at it like it's so hard and shit, you know what I mean? But... It's just because it's new, it seems hard, it's like alien. But it's actually fucking easy as fuck. I'm on my way, driving at 90 down those country lanes, singing to Tiny Dancer. And I miss the way. I'm on my way, driving at 90.
Polyrhythms is almost an extension on other concepts. Polyrhythms can be valuable, particularly if you want to be really aware of the rhythm of a piece of music. Or if you want to write using polyrhythms, it's good to know what they are and the relationship between the pulses, but definitely not an essential piece of knowledge when it comes to theory. So I'm going to put polyrhythms in the F category.
$10,000 por un DUI. Sale caro no cumplir con la ley, creo que un taxi es más barato.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
So I'm going to put polyrhythms in the F category. And something similar to polyrhythms is polymeters. A polymeter is when you do have a unified pulse, a unified tempo, but different parts are sort of completing their bar, their meter at different times. And therefore they sort of fall out of sync with each other and then fall back into sync after a full rotation. Once again, this is quite an advanced concept. And it's probably more important to know than polyrhythms, even though the term polymeters is probably less commonly known. And the reason I think it's more important to know is if you want to perform a polymeter, it's good to be aware of what's going on. If you're going to be playing in a different time signature, a different meter than the drummer, then you sort of want to know that going into it, because otherwise when things start sounding like they're falling out of time, then you might start panicking and trying to correct it. But if you're confident about the concept of polymeters and the fact that you're going to be playing in different meters, then when that sort of rhythmic tension begins, you won't feel uncomfortable. So I think polymeters are advanced. They're not essential at all, but they are more important than polyrhythms, I think. So I'm going to put polymeters in the D category. Next is a concept which is almost exclusively talked about in jazz music, and it's tritone substitution. What a tritone sub is when, rather than, for example, going 5-1, a perfect cadence resolution, you substitute the 5 chord for a chord a tritone away. So in this example, rather than being G7 moving to C, it would be D flat 7 moving to C. And as you can hear, that has a similar resolution to it. And because of that, it's a very common substitution that you might make when you're adapting a jazz tune. It's common in jazz music to reharmonize, to change the chord progression. And tritone sub is perhaps one of the most common ways to do that. But yeah, that said, it's a concept which is really limited to jazz. And if you're not playing jazz, then you don't need to know what it is. And you might even do it without knowing that it's called a tritone sub. So definitely not that important. I think it's going to wind up in F. I think if you're into jazz, it's definitely more important to know. But then jazz is a niche type of music, so I'm going to put it in the F category. Okay, now we're really getting into the advanced stuff. This is microtonality. So in normal Western music, the smallest interval we can use, the smallest interval available on the piano, for example, is the semitone, and everything else is bigger than that. But microtonality is when you use intervals that are smaller than the semitone, and when you use intervals that are based on stacks of those smaller intervals. In layman's terms, it's when you use notes between the notes. As you can imagine, that is a very unusual thing to do in music. It's really quite rare. It's a concept that's largely embraced by people who are actively trying to push forward the envelope of music and sort of find new approaches and sounds. And it's also something that's quite relevant if you're exploring beyond Western music.
That's the cutting edge.
And that is obviously valuable, but of course what we're kind of talking about here today is Western music theory. When we say music theory and you're in the West, you're referring to Western music theory. So I think it's no surprise that microtonality winds up in the F tier. Sorry, Jacob Collier. The next concept is the harmonic series. So the harmonic series is the natural set of overtones you get when you play a note. And what that means is, for example, imagine I hit the note A on the piano. Of course, we're hearing the note A, the pitch A, but also due to the way that sound is physically created, we're actually also hearing quieter overtones, other notes which are also in there, blended in. And those other notes always occur in the same order, the same series, the harmonic series. Now for most music making, particularly on instruments like the piano or the guitar, the same series, the
octave. Super major second, lesser tone. It's funny, man. It's crazy.
harmonic series. Now for most music making, particularly on instruments like the piano or the guitar, knowing about the harmonic series is very much a nice to know, not a need to know. And there are some instruments like horns and also things like violin, where knowing the harmonic series, knowing about the tuning between different intervals in the harmonic series can be very useful. But for the majority of music making on the majority of instruments, you don't need to know the harmonic series. So I'm going to put that in the F tier. Following on from the harmonic series, we have temperaments. So temperaments are the way that the notes of an instrument, for example the piano, have been tuned away from the sort of perfect ideal tuning. You can tune instruments to a mathematical ideal where every interval is tuned to a perfect pure ratio, and that's called pure intonation. But for reasons I've discussed in other videos, you don't really want your instrument to be tuned to pure intonation, and equal temperament actually fixes a bunch of problems with that tuning. So as you can probably tell from the density of what I've just told you, this isn't an essential thing to know about music, and it's kind of only relevant to instruments that can play between notes, instruments like the violin, where you might want to play around with temperament. On an instrument like the keyboard or the piano, you can't really change your temperament, so you don't necessarily need to know about it at all. So this is very much an F tier concept. There we have it. We've basically filled up the entire tier list here.
Let me see. Note names, try. See, I gotta do some ear training. Versions, intervals, yeah. Pentatonic, the minor scales, I need to learn those. So ear training, minor scales. Ear training, let me see minor scales.
And you could almost treat this as a list of concepts to learn in order. If you started at the top and worked your way down to the bottom, you'd be learning music theory in order of relevance, order of importance. And you could stop at whatever point you wanted to. Each concept you learn is going to be useful to you. It's going to expand your musicianship and expand your ability to make and communicate music. So just remember that you don't need to know music theory to make music, but it's certainly helpful.
Yes.
And you don't need to know music theory to make music, but it's certainly helpful. Expand learning music theory in...
And I need all the help I can get. Bam, screenshot. So ear training. I wouldn't put that on the fucking very most important thing, but I mean, I guess, you know, I guess it's that fucking helpful, huh? It's fucking hurting my ass, yo. Pause.
scales. Everything you need to know so you don't fail music class in 7 minutes. Minor scales are an important component of musical theory, analysis, composition, and technique. They have a different sound and structure from major scales, but are very closely related to them. Side note, it's important to note that familiarity with major scales and key signatures is fundamental to understanding minor scales. If you don't know those things before tackling minor scales, you're gonna have a bad time. Check the links in the description if you need to brush up on either of those concepts. Major and minor scales are so closely related that we say that every major scale has a relative minor scale and every minor scale has a relative major scale. Consider C major and its relative minor scale, A minor. Notice that they're built using the exact same notes. In fact, if we arrange the notes like this and combine the scales, it's clear that they're basically the same scale, just starting in a different place. We can also see this phenomenon on the piano. Here's a 2-octave C major scale, and this section of notes in the middle is an A minor scale. Some people like to think of the minor scale as starting on the 6th note of the major scale. Similarly, relative major and minor scales share a key signature. For instance, D major and its relative minor, B minor. Both have 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp, which means you can also write these scales like this, with a key signature, instead of writing out the individual sharps. The easiest way to determine a scale's relative major or minor is to realize that the root or first note of writing out the individual sharps.
Yeah, so they're both written the same, B minor and A minor.
The easiest way to determine a scale's relative major or minor is to realize that the root or first note of relative major and minor scales are separated by 3 semitones. To find the relative minor of C major, go down 3 semitones, C to B to B flat, and B flat to A. So, A minor is the relative minor scale of C major, and C major is the relative major of A minor. Of course, it works backwards too. To find the relative major of E flat minor, go up 3 semitones, E flat to E to F, and F to G flat. G flat major is the relative major of E flat minor. Also, relative major and minor are separated by 2 letter names. In this case, E goes to F and then to G. Things get confusing if you try to compare E flat minor and F sharp major. Be careful, some people count the first note rather than the first semitone and end up major of A minor. Of course, it works backwards too. To find the relative major of E flat minor, go up 3 semitones, E flat to E to F, and F to G flat. G flat major is the relative major of E flat minor. Also, relative major and minor are separated by 2 letter names. In this case, E goes to F and then to G. Things get confusing if you try to compare E flat minor and F sharp major. Be careful, some people count the first note rather than the first semitone and end up only going up 2 semitones. From C sharp minor, they go 1, 2, 3, but that's only 2 semitones. Make sure to go 3 semitones up or down. So, the relative major of C sharp minor is E major. To remember which direction is which, think of the quality of the scales. Most people think of the major scale as a happy, bright sound, like the feeling of nailing the garbage can with a piece of trash from all the way across the room, and hear the minor scale as a sadder, darker sound, like the feeling of being left hanging on a high five while you try to congratulate your best friend who just nailed the garbage can from all the way across the room. So, to go from the major to the relative minor, go 3 semitones down, and to go from the minor to the relative major, go 3 semitones up. To write a minor scale, start with the root and write 8 notes, 1 on each successive line or space, ending on the same note you started. Now you need to know what key signature to use, so we find the relative major. Looking at the piano keyboard, we see that 3 semitones above E is G, and the key signature for G major is 1 sharp, F sharp. So we add in the key signature, and that's an E minor scale. Now it's important to know that there are actually 3 types of minor scales. So far, we've been looking at something called the natural minor scale.
This is what I need.
The natural minor is the easiest to remember and the easiest to write because it's the same as the major scale but starts on a different note, the 6th, which is 3 semitones down. The natural minor is unchanged, unprocessed.
Right.
No.
Natural minor is the same as major scale, but starts on the 6th. Yeah, okay. That's natural minor.
Additives, preservatives, or fillers. It's the natural minor scale. The next type of minor scale is called the harmonic minor scale. It's almost the same as the natural minor scale, but the 7th note is raised by a semitone. To change E natural minor to E harmonic minor, we go to the 7th note, D, and raise it by a semitone to D sharp. And that's the only difference between the natural and harmonic minor.
So it's a sharp 7th. Sharp 7th. So A minor, A, B, C, G, E, F, G sharp. So G sharp. So that would be G sharp, huh? And the seventh would be what's, okay, so G sharp, it'd be, so G sharp would be D. What chord is that? G sharp, B. G sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp. What is this? It's D. No, let's see. Tripping. This would be D. That's D. D. G. What is this? That's D. D and G. Those are open. D. Oh no, that's G sharp. That's B.
Scales. To write the D harmonic minor scale, write out the notes, find out the relative major, 3 semitones up from D, F major, and add the key signature, which, for F major and D minor, is 1 flat, B flat. Finally, raise the 7th note by a semitone. C becomes C sharp. Notice that in minor scales, unlike major scales, you sometimes see sharps and flats in the same scale, in this case, B flat and C sharp. The raised note isn't necessarily sharp. It might go from flat to natural, like an E flat harmonic minor. To write that scale, write the notes, add the key signature from the relative major, which is G flat major, 6 flats. Then, check the 7th note. It's D flat because D is flat in the key signature. Then, raise D flat a semitone to D natural by adding a natural symbol. Finally, let's look at G sharp harmonic minor for one more special case. Write the notes, check your piano keyboard to see that the relative major of G sharp minor is B. Add in the appropriate key signature. Now, to raise the 7th note. It's already sharp, F sharp, so we actually use a double sharp, which just looks like an X. So, to write a harmonic minor scale, write a natural minor scale, and then raise the 7th note by a semitone. If the 7th note is flat, it becomes natural. If it's natural, it becomes sharp. And if it's sharp, it becomes double sharp. There's one other type of minor scale called melodic minor. It's a bit of a special case because unlike most scales, it's actually different on the way up and down. It starts the same way as the other scales. Write the notes, this time ascending and descending. Then, add the key signature from the relative major scale. To make it melodic minor, raise the 6th and 7th notes by a semitone on the way up. In this case, A flat and B flat turn into A natural and B natural.
Wait,
then,
what are we
lower
doing?
them back to the 6th and 7th notes by a semitone on the way up. In this then, add the key signature from the relative major scale. To make it melodic minor, raise the 6th and 7th notes by a semitone on the way up. In this case, A flat and B flat turn into A natural and B natural. Then, lower them back down a semitone on the way down, so the A and B become flat again. Let's also look at F sharp melodic minor. The 6th
What?
and 7th are natural, so they get raised to sharp on the way up, and then on the way back down, they get lowered back to naturals. Finally, G sharp melodic minor. In this case, the 6th is E natural and gets raised to E sharp, and the 7th is already sharp, so it gets raised to F double sharp.
alright.
On the way back down, they get lowered back to F sharp and E natural. And now for the big questions. Why are there 3 types of minor scales, and how do I remember which is which? The most complete and accurate answer is surprisingly complex and probably outside the scope of this video. But to give you some sense of the purpose of these scales, their origin, as well as how to remember which is which, the natural minor is the easiest scale to remember because it's the same as a major scale but starts on a different note. It's
Yes.
naturally occurring. It exists because it sounds nice, and
Harmonic
composers
is
use it a
sharp
lot. But
seventh.
really, natural minor isn't the only scale you can make by playing a major scale from a different starting note. You can start on any note of the major scale, and each one has a specific name. These are called modes. The natural minor just happens to be a really commonly used mode. The harmonic minor scale exists for reasons related to, surprise, surprise, harmony. The raised 7th note creates more tension than the 7th of the natural minor, which is resolved when the 7th note moves to the root of the scale. You can also hear this in the chords associated with both scales. The raised 7th changes the quality of several chords, the most important being the chord built on the 5th note of the scale. Composers use the harmonic minor version of the 5 chord way more often than the natural minor version because it makes for a more compelling case.
See, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm thinking the fucking chord from that 7th note, but I wasn't thinking of the other chords using that 7th note. So let's see. What do we got? 7th note, the 7th, the 5th, and the 3rd. Would be the 3rd. So A, B, C, C major with a sharp G. So that's regular. And then we need G sharp, so that would be, this is C, E, G, so that's sharp, sharp G. Down. This one's gotta go down there. I see. Oh, that's E, huh? So I could just. What other chord would use that? The 5 chord, yeah, the 5 chord. What is that? That's a G. So G. No, that's not G. That's A, B, C, D, E. 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 That's E. That's B and G. So E, B. That's G sharp. That just makes it E major. E major. Yeah, that's funny. So it's just E major. Let me make sure. Or I can just look here. Let's see. E major. E, G sharp, B, yeah. That's funny. So E major.
And that's why harmonic minor exists. The melodic minor scale is the scale that's different on the way up and the way down, much like a melody. A melody is more intricate than a simple scale and may have different notes on the way up and the way down. The reasons for the existence and structure of this scale are the most complex. But, like many things in music, the main reason is tradition. Over the years, composers have used this scale a lot. The melodic minor scale can be easier to sing and sight read, and composers like the way it manages tension and release, and that's why you have to know it too. So, to write a minor scale, write the notes, then find and write the relative major key signature. If the type of minor scale is natural minor, you're none. If it's harmonic minor, raise the 7th note by 1 semitone. If it's melodic minor, raise the 6th and 7th by 1 semitone ascending, and lower the 6th and 7th back down a semitone descending. And that's minor scales. Be sure.
I don't understand the melodic minor scale. So it's that sharp 7th for harmonic minor. Singing school. Melodic minor. Not too many people.
If you haven't messed with melodic minor before, you should definitely check it out. In case you haven't heard of it or you don't know what it is, it's a vibe that sounds like this. It's kind of spooky, kind of spacey. You can get that vibe by taking a major scale and going to the 3rd note in it, the major 3rd, and lowering that note a half step to make it the minor 3rd. So it's the major scale, but with the minor 3rd instead of the major 3rd. So a C major scale has the notes C, D.
So it would be C, D, E flat. So it would be E flat for C major. So over here. E flat, yeah. Oh, I'm in the major.
E, F, G, A, B. And to make it melodic minor, you take the third, C1,
Just
D2,
makes it minor.
E3, and lower it a half step. So in this case, in the key of C, E becomes E flat. So on the piano, it's going to be all white keys except for this one black key, the E flat. And if you stick to those notes, you get the melodic minor sound because you're playing in the world of melodic minor. We've got a bunch of other types of minor too, like really commonly natural minor, which is basically if you take a major scale and you emphasize the sixth note as the central home base tone or the tonal center. If you play, let's say in C major, and you emphasize C, D, E, F, G, A, the sixth note A, and you focus everything around that A, you're going to sound like you're in A minor rather than C major, and that will be A natural minor. So an A natural minor scale is just going to be A, B, C, D, E, F as the central home base tone or the tonal center. If you play, we've got a bunch of other types of minor too, like really commonly natural minor, which is basically if you take a major scale and you emphasize the sixth note as the central home base tone or the tonal center. If you play, let's say in C major, and you emphasize C, D, E, F, G, A, the sixth note A, and you focus everything around that A, you're going to sound like you're in A minor rather than C major, and that will be A natural minor. So an A natural minor scale is just going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, if you take that A natural minor scale and raise this.
Wait a minute. So, the C major scale with the flat third is C minor melodic.
Seventh note up a half step, you get another minor, which is called harmonic minor. And that sounds like this.
the melodic minor?
Here I'm just using that A natural minor scale, but with the 7th note in that scale raised. So in this case, it's all white keys except that G sharp there, and I'm getting the A harmonic minor sound that way. Then if I take my A harmonic minor scale and I keep the 7th note raised as it is here, and I also raise the 6th note, so A1, B2, C3, D4, E5, F becoming F sharp, F being the 6th becoming F sharp. Now with the A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, I have A melodic minor, and that is the type of minor that this video is all about.
Oh, what the fuck was the first thing about the flat third? So that'd be the same as 2 sharps is the same as the flat. So the minor with 2 sharps is the same as a major with a flat third.
So on the piano, it's going to be all white keys except for this one black key. The notes in the key of C are on your guitar. You can also do this just by thinking, all right, I'm going to raise the sharp and G sharp and start to form chords just by sight, just by putting your 6th and a raised 7th. So we're back to spacey, spooky land here. It's the type of minor that this video is all about. So there's 2 ways to get to melodic minor. You could think of it like a major scale, but with a flatted third or a lowered third. So major scale with a minor third in it. Or you could think of it as a natural minor scale with a raised 6th and a raised 7th. So we're back to
That's way
spacey,
harder than
spooky
flat
land here.
third. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really nice to explore this modality and this kind of thing on a piano because you can start to form chords just visually by saying, all right, I'm going to stick with those white notes except those 2 black notes for the F sharp and G sharp, and start to form chords just by sight, just by putting your fingers down in various configurations with those notes. If you have decent fretboard knowledge and you know where all the notes in the key of C are on your guitar, you can also do this just by thinking, all right, I'm going to raise the F to F sharp and the G to G sharp. You can put your fingers around on the guitar in a similar way, although it's just a little less intuitive because it's not as visually clear as on a piano. Here's A natural minor, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A harmonic minor with the raised 7th, A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp, raised 7th.
Okay. So, regular minor. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And then the sharp 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is there G sharp in A? major. Yeah. A major, A minor, A minor harmonic, A minor melodic,
And then melodic minor with the raised 6th and raised 7th. A, B, C, D, E. F sharp's the raised 6th, E sharp's the raised 7th, and that's
fucking kissing it. Pause. Man, this fucking van's about to cost me a fucking arm and a leg, yo. Did I push play already? I did. Yes, I did.
melodic minor. So if we are able to visualize that on all strings,
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, get back in the zone, dog. Get back in the zone. Let's get back in the zone. Like that. How's that? A, B, C, D, E, That's regular. F sharp, G sharp. Harmonic. Damn. Harmonic. Melodic. Natural. Harmonic. Okay.
You can start combining cross strings and forming chords that way. Now let's take a little bit of a more theoretical approach to forming chords. Let's just take the notes in this case, A melodic minor, and stack them up in thirds to create seventh chords. If we do that, we've got A, C, E, G sharp, which is A minor major 7. B, D, F sharp, A, which is B minor 7. C, E, G sharp, B, which is C augmented major 7. D, F sharp, A, C, which is D7. E, G sharp, B, D, which is E7. F sharp, A, C, E, which is F sharp minor 7 flat 5. And G sharp, B, D, F sharp, which is G sharp minor 7 flat 5.
That's funny. If I take the fucking... No, never mind. Oh yeah, no, if I take the harmonic or the melodic minor scale and raise the third a half a step, it turns to the major scale. That's funny. D sharp minor. I know what melodic minor is now. That's what's up. Damn, I learned how to read fucking music too. That's what's up. That's what's up. I wanna go home. I see the crystals in the
Hey, baby, it's Hookies. Oh, and everyone. We're all obsessed with your delicate. I see the crystal raindrops fall,
and the beauty of it all.
is when the sun comes shining through to make those rainbows in my mind. When I think of you sometime, I wanna spend some time with you. Well, just
just the two of us.
We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us.
Building castles in the sky.
Just the
Two of us. You and I.
We look for love, no time for tears. Wasted water's all that is. It don't make no flowers grow. Good things might come to those who wait, but not for those who wait too late. We gotta go for all we know. Oh, just the two of us.
We can make it if we try. Just the two of us.
Just the two of us. Just the two of us.
Building castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I. La, da, 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 da. La, da, 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 da. La, da, da,
I see the crystal raindrops fall on the window down the hall. It becomes the morning
Didn't do.
And darling, when the morning comes and I see the morning sun, I wanna be the one with you. Whoa, just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building big castles way on high. Just the two of us. You and I.
Man, I hope this van shit isn't too fucking bad, man. Damn. I just would have expected him to have called by now, you know. We moved to a vacant house in Japan in the countryside. Paid 300. So they paid $300 a year for rent. Trying to read the screen the whole time. Grotesque that liberal sites fume over blue-collar anthem. Let me see what this fool says.
Download the Domino's app today and become a Piece of the Pie Rewards member to earn points toward free pizza.
Race is not a conduit for communication, right? You see, that song is actually communication, right? And communicating to white people, black people, Hispanics, Asians. So what you find out, and what we have to understand, is that we are individuals. We do not think or communicate as groups. We are individuals when we communicate to other people, and that means individuals within separate groups can have as much in common or even more in common with individuals in other groups. A white guy can have more in common with the black guy, right? That's what this is really about. So when you look at that, this is to me, it's sad because it tells me what we could have had for the longest time if we didn't have this grotesque, monstrous thing called the media. There are all these major themes in life. And
That's
Pigment
talking about
doesn't
himself.
change our shared aspirations for these themes. Fortunately, the media does.
Just why do you think that these media representatives that Greg talks about, why can't they embrace this song? What is negative in this song?
Well, in particular, this line jumped out at me, and I didn't read anything about it first. This is the first time that I've discussed it. I was like, I'm just going to listen to the song. So there was one thing that stuck out to me in a really positive way, and one thing that was more negative. And then when I read the criticism, I saw it. So this line, Lord, we got folks in the street and got nothing to eat, and the obese milking welfare. So obviously it's picking on fat people. That's a fatphobic criticism, but it is using this classic welfare queen trope that goes back to the 90s. And I don't think it's racially charged. There are people of all races that are on welfare. A lot of them are heavy, and we all know that. That felt cruel to me. But the thing that stuck out in the positive direction, and why I imagine that there was so much emotional reaction to this, was the line about how long your hours are and how hard you're working for the BS pay. He obviously used the expletive there. And it made me think back to the time when we had Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump talking about the same things in the 2016 primary. And they were tapping into this economic populism argument that was really resonating with far lefties and people on the right side of the spectrum. And it was this idea that the deck is permanently stacked against you. It doesn't matter what you do. You can work 24 hours a day, but your check will always be garbage. And you will never be able to get out of this system that doesn't want you to succeed. And so I thought that was the main thrust of why it's resonating with so many people, I assume across a political spectrum as well. But I do think this felt far less polarizing to me than, for instance, the Jason Aldean song that we were talking about just, a month and a half ago or whatever it is, about the small town and, try it here with the images of what was going on in the summer of BLM. This had a lot of real working class vibe, and I get it, but I don't like the welfare queen stuff.
Yeah, but that's his feelings.
But
he's
I
an
didn't see
artist,
that
and
one.
he can say what he wants to say.
I'm not trying to
He's
restrict it.
speaking
I'm
from
just
his
saying,
own experience.
I get
and
why that's
the way-
offensive.
and what he sees as a problem in the country. Obviously, a lot of people, relate to what he's seeing. And he has every right to express himself in his music, however he wants, and if people want to jump on him for it. But I think obviously there's a huge obesity problem in the country.
Yeah, but
and
obviously people aren't on welfare and they're not stealing from the system.
It's deeply unhealthy,
Yeah.
and everybody knows it. So, I see him calling it out as he sees it as an artist. So, but it's fascinating to watch the reaction to this. One song can get so many
Oh, that's funny.
thinking.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
All right, so this Jason Aldean tried that in a small town. I haven't seen it. I have no idea, you know what I mean? Besides what they just said about it just now. It's got 32 million views. It's from a month ago. So that makes me compare to the other one. The Oliver Anthony one. It was uploaded August 8th. It's August 28th today. So that's 20 days and it's got about 42 million views. So we'll say in about 10 more days, how many more would it have? Let's say it's up to 60 million, or let's say it's double this, so 64 million. This one has 32 million. That's funny. And so the first time I saw the Richmond, north of Richmond one, I was recording. I just happened to be recording, and then I saw that, and then I watched a different. I looked at what other shit he had. I watched the Virginia one, and then I think I watched a reaction video. So I watched the Richmond, North of Richmond, and then I watched this reaction video by the fucking Cartier family, Cartier, whatever, Cartier family channel on YouTube. That was the first reaction I ever watched. So the first reaction, I guess I watched Game of Thrones reactions before, but that's it. So let's see what this is all about right here.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube
I am a small town.
ad-free videos on the YouTube Kids.
I'm in a small town. Oh, that's fucking funny. Definitely not as good as fucking Richmond, North of Richmond. Try that in a small town. All the people in the small towns like, yeah, bitch. And I'll watch the reaction now.
Jason Aldean, trying my damn buddy. Hey man, what you
Yeah.
got, brother? That is my shit. That's what's killing, bro. Chilling on the dirt road, laid back, swerving like George Jones. Smoke blowing out the window, an ice cold beer sitting in the console. Memory lane,
Fucking one of these fools didn't know the words. So we're taking the G out. And we're putting a B in.
Okay, so what's been going on? They trying to cancel Jason. They said this song incites violence. He talking about all that woke
Incites
stuff.
violence.
Like the last line me told. He said. Hold on, so they said this. That's in our community. He talking about all that woke stuff going on. He said try it in a small town. I was just at the gym in the summer. I was. So music down today.
So they hype for him saying something like this, and they like, baby, green guy. I put six in the car in the game, man. I ain't seen you.
They're feeding us to that. They're feeding that music to our community. So they took this on country music CMT. Yeah, country music network. Yeah, so they're like taking it off platforms.
So they're taking this.
Cancel this song.
They're trying to take that is a problem, then.
No, yeah, they don't.
That is, if they did him for dropping his song, they gonna let the nigga hit us with the swing song. Kill somebody. That's a problem. That is a problem, America. Huh?
They don't want to violence.
But they ain't gonna promote that. They ain't promote that.
Hello? Hello?
Mr. Dawn.
Hey.
Okay, this is Mr. Bob.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, doing great. We did the diagnose the vehicle. We actually took out the whole cluster. We did some testing. It's the whole light bulb. We have to take out everything out.
How much is that gonna cost?
The parts, the labor, and the diagnostic comes out to $276.99.
Okay, and then how much for the smog?
Oh, you also want the smog?
Or wait, but that doesn't fix the smog. It just fixes like the check engine light.
That's correct, boss.
Oh, okay. Well then, if there's a thing, whatever, if something needs to be fixed for it to pass smog, right? Like, can you check that?
I mean, we'll check for any codes pending.
Anyway.
Do a smog. But do you need a smog today?
I mean, yeah, I do need a smog, yeah. But if it fails, I don't have to pay for it. I'm sorry?
That's totally different from what we did today.
Yeah, no, I know that. What you're talking about today is just the check engine light, right?
That's correct, boss.
Yeah. So what would it be to like, because I know the check engine light was on before like it went off. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So like I need a.
What I recommend today, just drive it around. And if it comes back, that check engine light comes back, we'll take it from there.
Okay. Well. Okay. How much? Well. Okay. And so if I got it smogged, and if it failed smog, and then
You just pay the $49.99. You don't pay for the certificate.
Okay, but would I have to pay again to get it smogged again?
You have 15 days to fix the problem.
Yeah, and then like to get it smogged again, would I have to pay you guys again?
If it's within 15 days, you just pay for a certificate, which is $8.25.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess then if you could, or so I guess you're saying I should drive it around, see if it turns on again, and then bring it back to see what's wrong with it, and then get it smogged.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so, how long you think it's gonna take to fix it? What we're doing today?
Within an hour.
Okay. All right. I guess just just give me a call and then I'll come by.
Perfect. All right, we'll take care of it.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Bye.
I guess it's not as bad as I fucking. As bad as I feared, man. Thought he was gonna say like fucking $1,000.
Conservatives might like this video.
I already know I like this video.
So keep it in. So it's like it's gonna be January 6th.
Hell no.
So why they boosting it?
Because he said, basically, he like saying all the woke stuff going on, the riots and all that stuff. He said, come try it in a small town, see what happens, type shit.
Well,
And they said that's inciting violence. Which is, they ain't from Oklahoma. Nah.
Is he Oklahoma, Texas?
No, he's from like Alabama or something. It was like Macon, Georgia or something.
Yeah, Macon, Georgia.
Shoot, I know more in the South. I don't have my phone. You know, facts. He's from Georgia. Fact check it.
Y'all remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that actually.
I'll have to look, but I know.
Okay, all right.
No, guys, I'm excited. There's been a lot of controversy about this.
Man, chill out. I'm running a lot of bad things.
So they took this off of CMT, and they let us listen to this.
Alright. You know what? I don't even give a fuck.
Like, cause he talking about don't do violence, kind of. He said y'all.
But I do kind of.
This shit hard. Is this all for real?
Haha.
Shit is really making me more high. That's all. You shouldn't told me that. Now I'm getting more pissed. I mean, this has been pretty viral right now. Everybody's talking about it. I ain't been on the internet like that. I told you I was bumping. It's a good song, bro. He just saying, he pretty much saying, don't do all that crazy stuff.
Yeah, he's saying don't do violence. Don't do violence, boy. See, there's a technique where you pull on this part, so it pushes this, so you don't have to squeeze. I keep forgetting to do that. This fucking neck is heavy. It's like all fucking shitty. I've reached a level where I can like tell the difference and feel the difference between guitars and shit. That's funny. that fucking reaction I was watching. I want to watch it again. This dude has a good reaction. Shit's funny, yeah. Combine everyone's reactions and you get my reaction. Ha 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 ha. There was this dude who really liked the guitar part. Let me see. Damn, I gotta pay for that goddamn fucking shit. See, I lost track of what I was doing. See, I don't know when I watched it. It was like days ago or something. That dude. This dude, he's like reacts to the fucking guitar. Man. Fucking check engine, man. Fuck. I'm gonna find this dude. Alright. It wasn't yesterday. Saturday? No. Was it Saturday? Yeah, it might have been middle-aged white guy reacts. Let's see, Russian reaction. Rock music producer now. Alright, well, fuck it, I guess. Hello?
Hello?
Hey.
Yeah, this is David from Smog. Vehicle's ready for pickup.
Okay. I'll come on.